Good evening, Pitt County and board members. This evening, I'd like to open this meeting of the March 16th, 2022 of the Planning Board of Pitt County. Thank you for being in attendance, and I just appreciate you being here. Tab, I'm going to ask that you do the roll call for us, please.
Okay. Yes, sir. Fred Austin.
Present.
Don Brown.
Here.
Naomi Buck.
Here.
David Davenport.
Here.
Madison Downing. Madison Downing. Lyman Hardy.
Here.
RJ Hemby. RJ Hemby.
He's here.
I heard you earlier. John Landron.
Present.
Steve Little.
Here.
Charles McLaughlin.
Here.
RJ Hemby.
Try RJ Yumby.
RJ Hemby. We need you to be audible.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank you.
it flipped off somewhere. I don't know where it went. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, I see it now. All right.
And
Okay,
then
I'm back.
Madison Downing. Have you joined us? Okay. We have a quorum, Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. Listen, at this point in time, we're going to bow just a moment for a prayer. Then I'm going to ask Mr. Lyman Hardy if he would lead us in our pledge of allegiance, okay? So let us bow. Father, we thank you, Lord, for all the opportunities of life that you give us to serve you. And Lord, that's what's first and foremost. And Lord, we just pray right now that as we come into this meeting, everything that is said and done is pleasing in your sight. That is also pleasing in the sight of our citizens of Pitt County. We thank you for this opportunity to serve in this way. We thank you for our board. We thank you for our staff that does an excellent job as we go along. Lord, we just thank you again to be able to serve the citizens of Pitt County. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Let's pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, individual, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. I appreciate that, and board for the allegiance. At this time, we will have the approval of our minutes of the January 19th, 2022 meeting. And at this time, I would entertain a motion.
So
moved, Don Brown.
I heard a motion by Don Brown. I heard a second by
I'll say RJ.
RJ Hemby. Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor of the motion, let it. Oh, I'm sorry. Tab. I'll let you.
Hold on.
Fred Austin.
Approve.
Don Brown.
Approve.
Naomi Buck.
Approve.
Okay.
Naomi Buck. David Davenport.
Approve.
Lyman Hardy.
Approved.
RJ Hemby.
Approved.
John Landron.
Approved.
Steve Little.
Approved.
And Charles McLaughlin.
Approved.
Okay.
See, now, as we go along, I'd like you folks to realize I'm still in training, okay? So every now and then, I will look at Tab and Tab look back at me and say, listen, I don't do it. That's not my turn. So thank you for your patience, all right? So at this time, to the knowledge of Tab or anyone else, do we have anybody listed for a public address to the board?
Not public address, but we do have someone that would like to address the development review.
And we will do that when we get into that part, okay? So thank you, ma'am. As we move on, I see that Mr. Rhodes is going to address us with an administrative matter. Mr. Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Glad to have all you here tonight. Just have a brief administrative matter that we'd like to bring before you. we've hinted at this before, and we've been remote now almost for 2 years. As was mentioned in your agenda package, the commissioners are actually considering going back fully face-to-face or in person with their meetings in April. They'll take that under consideration at their meeting next week, but all indications, and based on the recommendation from our public health director, he sees no issue with us resuming our face-to-face meetings. So I want to go ahead and broach this subject with the board tonight in hopes that we could come to a consensus about meeting face-to-face at your April 20th meeting. That would be next month, of course. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that's our recommendation. We have talked to this topic with our county manager. She is in agreement as well that most boards, it's time to get back in person, especially, I'll just mention our land use plan with this group serving as our steering committee. I think it would really help us to get that face-to-face contact. We plan to go out and do some in-person meetings as well. So this will kind of help staff get back into that mode of operation as well. So I'll lay that in your lap, Mr. Chairman, for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. And listen, to the board right now, I would like to say that I don't know that we necessarily need a motion, but I would like to hear from each one of you just in a sentence or whatever that, hey, you're in favor of us going back into an in-person meeting, which I'll share with you right up front. I am. I'm ready to get even more and more in not only our county business, but in our country, that we get things back on a normal basis as far as what we can call normal. So I do appreciate that, but yeah, I'm ready to see you folks in person. Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
This is Lyman.
Hey, Lyman.
With the problem I had with it, soon you know I'm in favor of going back to the meeting public.
Understood. Thank you, sir. I need some other comments, please, so we make sure we got a consensus, okay?
Don Brown, I approve.
Thank you, Don.
And certainly not a problem going back in person. It's very important that we do.
RJ Henry, just know that I will be the Lone Ranger in the room because I will still be wearing my mask, but I will be there.
Thank you, sir.
David Davenport says, thumbs up. I'm ready to go.
Thank you, sir.
John Landrine, I agree.
Thank you, sir.
Charles McLaughlin, I agree, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Thank you, sir. Ms. Buck, can you hear me?
Say yes.
Yeah, say you agree.
What do I say?
I agree.
I agree.
Bless your heart. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. James, as far as this administrative matter, from what I just heard, it sounds like our board has a consensus and that we do agree. We're ready to see each other in person, and that'll be a good thing, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll go ahead and advertise accordingly then for our next meeting to be in person. And I think we've got a couple of new members, but just know we'll give you the address. If you haven't joined us in our Commissioner's Auditorium previously, we'll give you good directions to get there. So strange to have to say that, but again, we will need to get everybody back together. The other thing I'll mention, our planning board website is a little outdated. Please come prepared to have your picture taken. That's another administrative matter, but please come prepared so we can take care of that. Our public information officer would like to have your pictures posted. So thank you for your attention on that.
That's so we'll know who to give credit to, or either they can take blame for whatever we do, right? Okay. Thank you, sir. As we move right along and we look at development review, Jason, I guess we're going to come your way if you don't mind, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we have Sutherland Estates, the preliminary plan. Located on NC 43 south of its intersection with Cottondale Road in the Falkland Township, 33 lots, 34.88 acres. The owners Mitchell Cash and James Heiss. Here's an overall view of the location. You can see the airport in relation to the site. Here's a closer view. You can see that it's neighboring several other developments. This is an overall design. A few features we will note. NC box unit on its own lot. This is a NC 40 cluster box, and this will be a special purpose lot. They have a landscape buffer along NC 43 as required. They have open space here in the bottom with the 20-foot access easement as required. This site is zoned R40, a minimum of 40,000 square foot lot size, 3 new private streets, electricity by Greenville Utilities Commission, water service by Bell Arthur Water. School districts are Falkland Elementary, Farmville Middle, and Farmville Central High. The conditions and requirements on this plan, the Technical Review Committee has recommended conditional approval. For Pitt County planning, an NCDOT mailbox cluster will be required. The proposed road names are similar and must be renamed. They'll submit at a later date. Lot data and dimensions must be shown on all subsequent submittals. They are required to install best management practices for stormwater based on calculations submitted, and riparian buffers also must be shown on all submittals. Each lot will have to be evaluated for septic by the Pitt County Environmental Health Department. NCDOT requires 25 by 25 right-of-way triangles, encroachment agreements, as well as a 95-foot back tap and encasement under NC 43 because the water line is on the north side of the road. Greenville Utilities Commission Electric, a 12-foot electric easement will be required along the back of the right-of-way of all interior roads opposite of the water line for GUC electric facilities, and a 15-foot electric easement along NC 43. Bell Arthur Water Corporation, the 6-inch water line has been abandoned, and the 12-inch water line is going to be the main tap. All the responsibility will be for the developer to install correctly, and Bell Arthur Water Corporation can provide this. Here's a view looking from NC 43 across the site. Another view, and you can see adjacent property there on the left. And this is a view facing northwest along NC 43. And another view looking down NC 43 facing southeast. And another view of the current site conditions. And again, the Technical Review Committee recommends conditional approval. Adjacent property owners have been notified and staff has received inquiries in regards to this proposed development, wishing to review the overall design to attend the meeting. At this time, do we have any questions from the board?
So let me ask you right up front to the board, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns at this point?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Okay, sir.
If I can ask Jason. I noticed that the peak flow is increased by more than 10%, and therefore that best management practices will be installed. And how practically speaking, and I understand that that'll all be worked out and that'll all be a condition of the project, but what about the continuing maintenance of whatever might be suggested? Like if the homeowners don't form an association, for example, or if they do form one and they don't follow best management practices, what does the county have to ensure that it would be enforced? Because after the subdivision is approved and the bell has been rung, and I'm just asking the question, I'm not saying I'm against the project, but how I'm curious about the continuing enforcement of best management practices.
The stormwater documents are recorded. So they are of record, and the HOA establishment would be who would enforce that as they're installed. And over the first 2 years, they are required to be maintained by the developer to ensure that everything is maintained and working properly before handed off.
Right. But let's say that the homeowner is completely neglected. I assume, I mean, I've read the stormwater ordinance and I can't remember, but is it enforceable by a fine or other penalty? In other words, what do we have as a county to make sure that they truly observe best management practices?
Mr. Chairman, this is James. I'll be glad to address that.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Mr. McLaughlin, for your question, because we're right now in the midst of updating our stormwater regulations based off some new rules established at the state level. And but I will tell you, even the current rules that are in place, in this particular subdivision, you have private streets. You also have those best management practices. In this case, I believe it's a swale of sorts, a vegetated swale. That is part of the homeowners association agreement. That is the financial responsible party for these improvements. So each year we get an updated report about the stormwater improvements that are on site. So we do an inspection after that report comes in to make sure that it's in proper working order, and whoever's responsible, whether it's the developer the first couple of years or the homeowners association afterwards, they are required to get that back in working order if there are any deficiencies. So we feel like we've got a pretty good system, and yes, if it comes down to it, there are fines and penalties as needed to make that sure that enforcement is carried out. Okay.
Because I know that a homeowners association, if it's not viewed seriously at the outset, it'll be like herding cats to get people, to do
and
things.
Again, not a perfect system, but for the long-term accountability, the homeowners association is about the only option we have for continued maintenance.
I understand. Well, thank you for answering. I mean, you've answered my question, and I thank you.
And could I perhaps supplement that, even though James answered it, I believe our stormwater ordinance does have what I'll call the full complement of tools in the toolbox. The legal remedies include civil penalties, criminal penalties, injunctive relief, stop work orders, abatement orders, permit revocation, and restoration. So in my tenure with the county, we haven't got to many of those tools, had to bring them out, but they're in the toolbox, so to speak.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you pointed that out. I forgot that I read that in there. And thank you for pointing that out. It's important to have that, because if you didn't have it, you would never get compliance. The threat of that is a good thing.
James, this is Lyman. I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
A few years ago, there was a committee set up about having to put a bond up for the developer of the subdivision as far as the roads are concerned. Is it still in play?
No, sir. It worked very well in the short tenure we were able to do that, but new legislation came out, and Jordan can probably speak to it better than I can, but it did not allow us to hold any maintenance bonds. We still can hold those bonds up front to make sure the improvements go in, but as far as a long-term maintenance bond, the state no longer allows for that. So Jordan, you might want to clean up some of my language again.
No, I think you did a good job. And I think mainly the scenarios that we envisioned were developer who was proposing a public street posted a bond, maintenance bond, meaning that they would have to maintain those streets during the period after it's been installed, but before the state had taken it over, because there could be some lag period associated with that. We no longer have that authority for the maintenance period. It can be required at the front end. But with this subdivision, I believe they're proposed private streets. Is that correct, James?
Yes, that's correct. So again, another reason why the homeowners associations put in place in lieu of something like that. So Mr. Hardy, in this case, if our old regulations were still, if we had that authority, we wouldn't be accepting a maintenance bond here. The homeowners association will take over that responsibility once the developer's first 2 years are exhausted.
Thank you, James.
All right.
Any other questions or concerns from the board? Let me say this, Mr. McGlohorn, Mr. Hardy, I appreciate your questions. And Mr. Rhodes, I appreciate you and your response. And I must apologize to Mr. Smith because I don't think I even said hello as we started this meeting, but I was wondering, I was fixing to ask, where's my attorney? But anyway, there he is. So thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your responses. And with no more questions, I guess we need to hear from, I believe, is it Mr. Danny Anderson?
Yes, and Julie.
And Joy. Nice to have you folks in our presence. Thank you.
All right, I'll go first. Yeah, my name's Danny Anderson. Me and my wife live at 352 VOA Site C. Our back of our property will be adjacent to this development. My biggest concern is I'm trying to read the map. I'm not an expert at drainage, and y'all are talking stormwater, so I know that's important. Will there be a ditch between the property lines? Will there be a drainage from the back of these homes that run water away from the two properties?
Jason?
We do have.
The map's so small when I print it, I can't hardly see it.
Jason, you want me to answer that?
Or yeah, I know the drainage swell that runs, the one that was added in.
Marie, you might want to mention exactly where those are. You were the designer. So, Mr. Chairman, we have Marie Peden on the line. That's actually the engineer that's drawn this plan. She can probably speak to some of those improvements a little bit quicker than staff can at this point.
Okay, Ms. Peden?
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, I'm looking on, I got two screens going. So when I turn my head from you, it's not that I'm not paying attention to you.
Sure.
I want to see the lot that you are on. Based on each site being developed, on how they are being developed, it would be, each lot would be graded separately. It's going to be my advice, because of how flat this area is, that there would be a swell along that rear property line, what I'm calling the rear property line of the lots. Do you have a copy of the plat?
I do. It's just printed out so small, it's so hard to see.
Very hard to see. You see Madison Circle is, I'm just referencing that. We know that name is not acceptable, but just to give you clarification on the road, it's the first road where these lots back up to.
Right. Right.
So lots 24, 25, 23, 24, 25, those lots in that area, it's going to be my recommendation to the builder to make sure that there is a swale along the rear of that property, so that water gets down into the existing system that is going to be along the rear property, along like where lot 8 is, so that site will continue to drain. It's very flat, and it is at the breaking point.
Yeah, we have water just stands in our backyard every time it rains, and that's why I was concerned about another property. Would it be graded towards our property, or will there be something in between the two? That's what I wanted to know. It would
be my recommendation to have there be a swale of some sort, not a ditch, not a ditch like something deep. Just a slight swale to where the water will get out of there when you have these rainfall downpours.
Could you tell us what a swell is? I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, I understand, and I hate it. I'm not speaking your language. Basically, it is a grass area with I say shallow slopes, like the roadside ditch in front of your house. I wouldn't call that a swale. That's more of a ditch. But a swale is like very shallow. Usually probably like a 5-to-1 slope. And I don't know if that makes any sense to you, because you wouldn't have much fall on the sides. I can't draw you a picture. I don't know how to explain it. Then your side slopes are just not very steep.
Right.
And it's something that could be mowed on a lawnmower. A riding lawnmower would be safe. You wouldn't feel uncomfortable riding it on a riding lawnmower.
I got it. I know what you're
saying. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not what I wanted to hear, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So if you make this recommendation to the developer, and it's just a recommendation, what are his options?
His options are to, what can I say? I'm going to say, if you want to sell your lots, you need to make sure they drain. That's me as an engineer. You don't want to have lots that don't drain.
Okay, and so who holds him or the builder, the developer, responsible for that as the ground is breaking and they're developing the lots?
Again, Marie, I think here at this point in time, the plan, the way it's currently designed, does not have any designated improvements along that back property line, which is actually, for just so everyone's following along on the map, if you're looking at Highway 43, it is the first road. It is Madison Circle that's running in. You might see lots 23 through 26. The Anderson's lot is behind those, and their lot fronts on the Voice of America Road. So the rear of lots 26 through 22, there's no requirement at this point that there be any type of improvement, a ditch, for example, to be installed there to take that surface water. Marie, correct me if I'm wrong. Again, the lay of the land is going to help facilitate the runoff of that water to some extent. Drainage law requires that current drainage pattern not be disturbed. So if it's undisturbed, at this point, there would not be any requirements from us based off this plan. And Marie, I don't know if you're looking at making any other types of improvements prior to the construction plan and submitting it.
No, and we typically at this preliminary plat stage do not look at drainage of each individual lot. We look at the overall, and we're most concerned with the roads and all of the public improvements and the drainage of the public improvements. And then as the builder comes and does each individual lot, they look at those separately.
I understand that.
So let's say they're building behind us. The developer starts building behind us, and we start experiencing more water in our yard. Who do we contact?
Most likely you'll need to contact our office. And again, the question would be, is it the natural lay of the land? Is that the way that the water typically flows?
Right.
Or has something been changed? Is there some way that the water's been rerouted to cause that problem? Those are the type things that we need to consider, and especially looking at drainage law to see if there's any resolution that we would need to be involved with, or if it is really a property owner situation as far as the improvements that's necessary.
And at the same time, I think, Ms. Beaton, that it would be a great suggestion and a recommendation from you to the developer in this plan to be aware of what's been said here, and that what really I think needs to happen in his ballpark to make it happen for adjacent property owners. Okay, good. There again, that's a recommendation.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I will let them know that there's a drainage. It sounds to me like there is a drainage issue there already, like now. Am I correct? You're having problems now.
Yes.
Down the middle of the back of the yard, it goes straight across, and I know our neighbor has a problem too. And unfortunately, it wasn't addressed when these houses were being built. So that's what we're trying to avoid, that it gets any worse.
I understand, and I will let them know. So I appreciate you letting us know at this time. Thank you.
Okay.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Good deal. Thank you, Mr. and Ms. Anderson. I do appreciate it. Something I got to go back and I guess apologize to the board again, because each time we do some of these addresses, we do have a time limit on it, and I didn't ask Tab.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
On me, okay? No, my bad. So I appreciate your patience and appreciate the board's patience in this. Okay. At this point in time, I will ask for a motion on this item from the board.
Is this a motion to approve the subdivision?
To approve or disapprove, whichever one we're going to do.
I make a motion that we approve. Lyman Hardy.
Thank you, sir.
Second, David Davenport.
I have a motion and a second that we approve this preliminary plat with its conditions to meet requirements of the subdivision ordinance. Ms. Tab, I need you to take a vote for me.
Okay. Fred Austin.
I approve.
Don Brown. Don Brown.
Approve.
Okay. Naomi Buck.
Approved.
David Davenport.
Approve.
Lyman Hardy.
Approve.
R.J. Henby.
Approve.
John Landron.
Approve.
Steve Little.
Approved.
And Charles McLaughlin.
Approved.
Okay, we have approval.
Motion has passed. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Mr. and Ms. Anderson. I appreciate your comments. At this time, we'll move into planning matters, and Eric, we're looking your way, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. I'll get my screen pulled up here real quick.
By the way, I like the comments that have been made thus far from James and from others that in this particular project, the planning board is going to be a steering committee, but the driving force to bring this plan to fruition.
That is correct, Mr. Chair. As the board may remember from the January meeting, my keyboard's not working. There it goes. The board has been designated to serve as the steering committee to oversee the development of this plan update. Tonight will actually be your first steering committee meeting. In your packet, we noted it was going to be conducted by Jake Petrosky with Stewart. Jake isn't with us tonight. Instead, Chad Seri is with us, also from Stewart. And also the next steering committee meeting will be held in June at the board's regular meeting. So just want to kind of, before I turn it over to Chad, I just want to talk about a couple of the things that we've completed so far in this process, at least since we've reported to you last time in January. We have come up with a detailed project schedule that includes all our public engagement efforts, and Chad's going to go through that as part of the committee meeting. As mentioned, the board was designated to serve as that committee. We also held a kickoff meeting on February 18th with other county departments. We had tax office, let's see, who else was there? The tax office, engineering, inspections. There was a number of different departments that are all sort of interrelated when it comes to development in the county and growth. Able to meet with them, get a lot of good input from them in terms of how they see growth occurring in the county and what they would like to see. And then following that meeting, we had a tour with Stewart throughout the county so they could get a feel for the different areas. So our next steps, we'll be looking to launch the project website, and Chad's going to talk with you a little bit too about the name of the plan and getting the board to help decide what we're going to call it and getting that branding out there. Then on April 28th, we're going to be holding stakeholder interviews for people within the county. We're working on developing a list of those stakeholders These will be more specific groups of people throughout the county, whether it's developers, large landowners, surveyors and engineers, local officials, that sort of thing. Looking to bring them in on the 28th and get their input as well. And then we're looking to establish some specialized working groups to help develop that plan. These will be groups for specific areas of the county and different interests in the county. And then also one of the things that Chad's going to mention is talking about developing a survey to get public input that we'll be having out there on the project website, and hopefully get a lot of good feedback from the public about the plan and what they would like to see. So with that, I'd like to turn over to Chad. I'll go ahead and give him a quick introduction. Chad is the Vice President and Community Planning Practice Leader for Stewart. Again, that's our planning consultant. Some of you may have been on the board for a couple of years at least, may remember Chad. He helped after the adoption with the Southwest Bypass Plan. He helped us draft and get several amendments adopted for the zoning ordinance to help implement that plan. So with that, I would like to go ahead and turn it over and let Chad run the show for a little bit.
All right, thanks, Eric. I'm gonna share my screen and hopefully it will work. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, sir.
That's good, Chad.
Oh, well, it's already a successful night then. So it worked. Well, first of all, Eric, thank you for the introduction. A little more about myself. It's always good to be working on projects down east. I'm an Eastern North Carolina guy. I grew up in Edenton in Chowan County and went to school at ECU. So always love coming back to visit and particularly work on projects. And we'll get into a little bit more of our familiarity with the county as we get into the presentation. But again, thank y'all, so much for having us tonight. We're really excited about this project, and congratulations for being appointed to the steering committee to work on this project. So tonight's agenda, we're going to sort of go through and walk through who we are and talk a little more about our team. We'll talk through the schedule and the process in a little more detail so that you can see, how this is going to all play out over the next 11, 12, 13 months. We've done a lot of research, and so we're going to kind of enlighten you on some of the information we've learned about Pitt County, some demographic trends that we've seen over the last 10 and 20 years. And then got some final thoughts and some discussion and maybe even some homework for you all to take back and think about. Eric sort of mentioned about the name and the branding of the plan, and it doesn't necessarily need to be something we need to make a decision on tonight, but we do want you to start thinking about it. So as far as introductions, your wonderful staff and your great staff that you have, we're again really excited to be working with them. James, Eric, and Ben, along with the other members of the planning team that's there. We'll also be working with other departments. So it won't just be planning, although they'll be the primary contact that we work with on this project. As far as our team, we've got a great team of planners that are on our team. Again, I'm Chad Sari, been involved in planning in a variety of different ways through local government over the last 20 some years. Jake Petrosky is the project manager for this project, and unfortunately he couldn't make it tonight. He had to had a conflict and couldn't be here. And then we have Ben Cotton, Jay McLeod, Allison Evans, Andrew Radford, who is actually on the call also tonight of our team, Jaquacia Cologne and Stephen Faber that will be involved in the project. And the good thing is a lot of these folks, about half of us, were involved in either the Pitt County project or some of the projects we worked on in the past, or involved in some of the municipalities in Pitt County. So we've been real fortunate to not only have worked on some projects in Pitt County, but also in Ayden, Winterville, and we're actually wrapping up the comprehensive plan in Farmville right now. So very, very familiar with Pitt County and enjoy working there. A little bit about our group and our firm. We're a 28-year-old firm. Our main office is located in Raleigh. We do have offices in Durham, Wilmington, Charlotte, and Columbia, South Carolina. The thing that I love about our firm is that we have a lot of different resources to turn to. We're not just a planning firm. We're also a landscape architecture firm, transportation firm, an engineering firm, and have a lot of those resources that are there. So it really allows us to kind of cross collaborate and work on a lot of the disciplines that we have in our firm. And one of the things that I think is really great about our group is that we truly believe that we like to think that we're strengthening communities by serving, leading, and working in an interdisciplinary way. So let's talk a little bit about your role as a steering committee member. There'll be regular meetings throughout this process and this project. We'll dovetail them on to your regular planning board meetings. I can't promise we won't have another meeting that's not on the planning board night, but we're going to certainly try to make it work that way. We want you to listen and contribute your ideas and opinions as we go through this process. Very important to hear from you, as representatives of those in the community, and get others involved. There's a lot of opportunities for public engagement, whether it be through a survey or coming by to a public meeting or participating in some other way, to really encourage those in the community to get involved. And really, most importantly, is be an ambassador of this plan. It's a journey. It's a journey full of conversation and consensus building, and really planning for the future of Pitt County. So we really need you all as ambassadors of this plan and this process. So as we move into the schedule, Eric mentioned kind of an overview of it, but this is really the sort of span and lifespan of this project. And if you see right now, we're in phase 1. So we are in the project initiation and the analysis phase. And this is really where we start learning more and more about Pitt County. So we're collecting data. We've been there and had a meeting with your staff, toured the community. We're working on the website right now and working on some project branding. And we're having our first steering committee meeting. And we're going to go over our community profile. As Eric mentioned, some items that are coming up are some stakeholder interviews and the community survey that's going to go out. So that whole part of that process is going to last around 4 or 5, maybe 6 months. And then we'll start moving into phase 2, which is the visioning and plan development. That's really the chunk of the project. There'll be several public workshops, as you see on the screen, spread throughout the spring and early summer. We'll have some working group meetings. We'll start drafting our visions and goals, and that'll be something the steering committee will meet about. We'll have a future land use map. We'll talk about policy recommendations. And then there'll be some other opportunities for some public input as we move through the process. And then as we start moving towards the end, there'll be the implementation and the adoption phase. There'll be another steering committee meeting then, and then the planning board will actually move towards adoption with the ultimate goal of the Board of Commissioners adopting the plan within about a 12 or 13-month process. So this is sort of the process and how it'll lay out. You sort of see the steering committee sort of staggered along here throughout the process and the public meetings. So we're real excited about this and think it's a pretty solid schedule. So what is a comprehensive plan? It's a long-range document. It makes forecasts based on trends and past data, and it covers over the next decade or two. It provides guidance on land use and zoning and intensity and design. It provides guidance for staffing, for programs and infrastructure investment. And it's a collaborative document. So we like to say it's a community conversation. It's viewpoints from a lot of different folks that live in the community, for citizens, for business owners, for leaders, for elected and appointed officials. All those folks is a community conversation. And I think the most important part is it is a policy. So recently the state law passed, updated their general statutes that a land use plan is now officially required by communities to in order to be able to enforce zoning. So while it's still a policy document, it could lay the groundwork for some potential text amendments for your zoning and subdivision ordinance into the future. And then the components of a comprehensive plan, it really provides the recommendations for land use and development, but it also has sort of categories. So parks and recreation would be a part of it, natural resources, agriculture, housing, infrastructure and services, and economic development. All these will be components of the comprehensive plan as we work through it. And public engagement is a critical part of that. Your staff made it very clear early on that this is very important, as it should be. Anytime that a local government takes on a project like this, being very transparent and having opportunities for the public to participate is incredibly important for the credibility of the project. So throughout this project, again, there'll be steering committee meetings, stakeholder interviews, public meetings, survey opportunities, and there'll be a website where a lot of this is kept so that people can follow through and follow up on some of the things that are going on. Speaking of the public engagement plan, there really will be a sort of a kickoff of that in the spring coming up, as I mentioned earlier. We're creating the website as we speak. That'll be coming out pretty soon. There'll be some working group meetings and follow up with those. We're planning 4 community visioning workshops that will be in person, and we're looking at trying to have those at the 4 different sort of quadrants of the county. So we know it's real important to go to the folks in the community so that we can get their feedback. And then there'll be a community survey that goes out that'll be available in writing and also through the website. And then as we move into the fall, there'll be 2 more community open house meetings that will be in person for folks to come by and review and comment on the recommendations of the plan and the future land use plan. So let's move into the community profile and talk about some of the things that we've learned so far about the county. So just as a reminder, this plan is for recommendations that are in the unincorporated area of the county and countywide policies and programs. We will certainly have correspondence with the municipalities. As I mentioned, we're very, very familiar with Greenville, Winterville, Ayden, and Farmville, and certainly looking to learn a little more about some of the other communities in Pitt County. So as far as population, you actually have a very young population in Pitt County. The median age in North Carolina is almost 39. Y'all are right at 33. So you have a young population. That's due to a variety of reasons. But if you look at Lenoir County, your neighbor right down the street, you almost have a 10-year age difference from them. And then you can kind of see some of the age cohorts that are growing. Obviously, you can see the 70 to 79-year-old had the highest growth rate. We're getting older. The county's getting older. And you kind of see those statistics for the county as a whole. As far as population growth, the county's grown by about 27% over the last 22 years. It grew by, Pitt County as a whole grew by just over 36,000 people, and the unincorporated areas grew by over 7,000 people. Since 2010, the population in the unincorporated areas has actually decreased a little bit, but we're still questioning some of the accuracy of that from some of the census data that has recently come out. As far as the population and the racial breakdown, the unincorporated area, you see the majority being 64% of white and 20% being the Black or African American, along with some of the smaller areas. And then if you look at the incorporated areas, you have a 50% that's white, 39% Black or African American, and then the smaller categories that are on the screen. As far as housing, some of the quick statistics. You've got over 81,000 housing units that are in Pitt County. 25% of that are in the unincorporated areas. One of the things that I'm certainly something that we'll talk about during this process is the number of households without internet. So 14.2%, which is actually a lot, which is actually higher than the average across the state. So that's certainly something that is important, and we've already recognized that. You've got 47% of income spent on rent, 24% is spent on a mortgage. This is obviously something that you dealing in a college community is something that is not uncommon. And then the increased number of vacant houses has increased since 2010. Median house income. So if you made some investment property back in 2000, you've done really well. And really any part of Pitt County. If you look at all through the gambit here, you're looking at least a double in median home value since the 2000 census came out. All across the board, you can see the property values or the home values increasing all across all the areas, both incorporated and not in part unincorporated areas of Pitt County. And then the housing types, the majority of homes are single family detached, mobile home or manufactured homes. Those make up about 48%. There's over 4,000 mobile homes that are in Pitt County. What's interesting is over 7,000 have been constructed since 2010 with an average of about 549 homes per year. And just in 2020, 891 homes were constructed. So you kind of see that growth and how that's been happening in the county through the years. Median household income. This is another thing that you see, that has grown, through the years. It kind of goes in line with the house value, right? It kind of is very similar to that. So the estimated income for Pitt County is just over 53,000. Unemployment rate is just over 3% according to North Carolina Commerce. And then you can kind of look at the graph and see the increase of household income from 2000, 2010, and 2019, all going in the right direction, except for Grifton. You can have a little talk with them and see what's going on there. So as far as employment, top industries, some of the growing sectors are your professional and scientific, management, administration. The construction industry is growing. Transportation and warehouse is growing. Some of your top sectors are your retail and your trade, just under 17%. Healthcare, social assistance, just under 16%. And then accommodations and food services, such as restaurants, just under 16%. As far as the growth goes, from industry growth from 2010 to 2019, there were almost 2,500 jobs created in the county. By 2018, the professional, the scientific waste services had a real big increase from a little over 5,600 to almost 8,000 jobs. The construction industry had an increase of from 2,600 to 3,300, and then the transportation increased about 200 or about 150, 23% increase. You can kind of see on the right side of your screen that construction area growing, as well as that professional and scientific and waste services growing. And as far as some of the top employers, shouldn't come to any surprise, the hospital and ECU and the Board of Education, Pitt County, City of Greenville, Pitt Community Colleges are all some of the big employers, along with some of the manufacturing services that you see on your screen. And then some of the non-manufacturing larger employers were Walmart and McDonald's. So kind of interesting on those statistics. As far as development activity, you've had in the past 3 years a little over 3,500 building permits, 46 final plats, a little over 2,800 final lots, 35 preliminary plats, and a little over 3,100 preliminary lots. And if you sort of look at the map on your screen, you sort of see there's a lot of building permits sort of in the southeast and southwest is where you see a lot. And then you sort of see a lot of sporadic building permits kind of spread throughout the county, but you really see kind of where that growth is really happening kind of in this sector here. And then agriculture, some of the statistics that we've had from the agricultural census, it's the farmland. You have over 186,000 acres of farmland. One thing that this does include is timbering. So it may be skewed a little bit from the total of what you might think is traditional farmland. You have seen an increase of number of farms since 2012, and the market value of the agricultural products are pretty substantial at $242 million. So, final thoughts before we kind of close out. I've thrown a lot of information at you, but we are really looking forward to diving into this project. I put on here for homework questions because I don't know if it's one of those things where I'm going to throw on you tonight. And I think James had mentioned that, you know, having these steering committee meetings are a lot more effective when you're in person, for sure. We kind of thrive off that as planners and kind of thrive off that energy. But I thought maybe what we could do is you know, y'all can, we'll certainly send this, you know, this presentation out to you all. And maybe we're thinking about some of these questions over the next couple of days to get back with us about, you know, what do you think is going well in Pitt County right now? You know, what do you see as the biggest issue over the next 5 to 10 years? And what do you think this plan should accomplish? You know, I feel like that it might be better off for you to think and contemplate those questions a little bit, and would love to get your feedback on it. The other things that we'd like to get your thoughts on are the name of this plan. We've come up with a couple of different ideas. And again, this is one of those things where I don't think we need to answer tonight, but we would like you to think about it and provide some feedback to, you know, your staff, and they can share that information with us so that we can kind of lock down that vision or the visioning or the branding of the plan, because this will be what we create the website on. It'll be how we start framing up the branding of the plan and how we start putting the document together. So come up with some interesting ideas, and love for y'all to think about some of those and provide some feedback to your staff on that, so that we can kind of move forward on it. As far as our next steps, you know, we're working on we'll be working on the public survey. That'll be something that comes out and not in the near future. Our community meetings are coming up, so there's a lot of prep work that goes into that. We're going to continue to kind of build our data and our maps and our information that we have, working with your staff. And then we're going to keep working on some of the existing conditions maps and the existing conditions that you have in the community. So again, as I kind of close, I'd love to see if y'all have any questions or comments. Just appreciate y'all's time tonight, and we're really excited about this project. I'll kind of turn it back over to you, Eric, or James, or you, Mr. Chairman, to see if y'all had anything else to add or any more thoughts.
I would say this, that, yeah, you answered a couple of my questions as you went through. And in fact, great job, Chad, as far as the presentation. I kind of liked it because you spoke a little fast and I listened fast. Okay. So I'm good with that. I do like the idea of one point that I picked up in there was the public engagement plan to make sure that the citizens of Pitt County know what we're involved in and know why we're involved in it and what we're looking forward to. And in saying that, you did answer my question, because my first question was going to be, you're going to send us a presentation, a copy of this presentation, because when you got into the numbers, yeah, I was listening to them and I was enthused by some of the numbers, but then there were some numbers I got to ask a question about at some point in time. But again, all good stuff. Thank you. I think it's going to be, you got a good team on this board to be able to help steer this project and to bring it to a positive fruition down the way. 2045, I saw that number just a minute ago and I said, well, I can only hope that I'll still be around, because I'm in that group that you showed, I think, of 70 to 79. There's baby boomers, okay? So I hope I'm here and can see what happens in 2045, and maybe if the citizens would let me go again, or if James is still around. James, I'm going to count you out too. But anyway, that say, Steve, let's finish this and let's go for 2065 and see what happens. But great job, Chad, I think. So, but I would ask the board members right now, any comments or any opportunities or challenges you'd like to throw back toward Chad or James or Eric? Any comments?
I'd like to say, also just, that was a great job and that your whole team did, very well put together. My only question the whole time was exactly the same thing. I hope you're gonna send us that presentation.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I actually I just sent it to Eric, so he should have it and be able to forward to y'all. But we do want y'all to give some thought to those questions and some, because that will certainly help us sort of, kind of we look to y'all as kind of being the shepherder of this process, and having that feedback early on is certainly important to us, as well as the branding, because we want it to be something everybody gets excited about, and really kind of help us start building that energy moving towards on this project.
What was the date right now, or approximate date for launching the website?
Well, that's one of the things that we need. So when we are able to determine what we're going to call the plan, that will help us create the URL, the website name, so that we can start branding. So as soon as we have, hopefully maybe in the next couple of days, y'all can provide some input on that, or maybe a consensus on it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd say it's immediate.
Immediate.
We're planning to go live this week. So if there's one task that we'd really like you to hone in on tonight before we adjourn, help us. If you don't help us, we're going to pick a name ourselves at the staff level, but we need to go live this week. Our public information officer is very much about making sure we are branding things the correct way. So to brand it, we need to have a good name. So if you'll look at your screen again, give us some ideas about what you would like to call our new land use plan. And again, it's about a 20-year horizon. I like putting the numbers in it myself, 2045, but you advise us what you'd like to see.
Well, I'm glad you throw this page back up there, because I see there's 10 suggestions or thoughts on there. And so, we need to at least narrow it down and focus on something that will give us some direction. Because again, if guys, we don't on the board, and ladies on the board, if we don't give our input, we got nobody to blame down the road for having another name we didn't think much of. Can't blame anybody but ourselves, okay? So
where should we get these suggestions to? How do you plan we send these URL suggestions to, and how to who and how?
The suggestion that I just heard from James, I think John, was, as we look at it right now.
I would like this task, if at all possible, Mr. Landrine, to happen tonight. If not, we're going to have to probably get Tab to call around tomorrow and ask what your vote is. So you could either do it tonight, or we'll call around. It's, in my mind, we were going to launch this website by the end of the week. So this is imminent. We need some assistance if at all possible.
What's wrong?
If you're asking for a recommendation, I like the third one, but that's just my preference.
Chairman.
And I'm going to throw one too. You said 2045 Pitt County Comprehensive Plan, and I like Pitt County Forward, but that's there again. That's just a couple that I would think about. Lyman, yes, sir.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was wrong with the Pitt County Plan Use Plan 2045?
Okay. All right.
I'd like to put my comment, 2 cents in. I do agree with the year 2045 being put in place with it, but I also do like the envision. How do we envision our county? Where do we see it going in 2045? So if we do a combination of that, envision Pitt County 2045 might be a good suggestion.
And Chad, we don't know whether that might have already been taken up. Is that correct? Some of these are ones that we know are available right now.
That's correct. Yeah, we through the website that we work with to create this, these are the ones that are available. I can't guarantee that one because we'd have to go back and check to see if it's available.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman.
R.J. Henry. Yeah, I like the 2045. It's already in place, Pitt County Comprehensive Plan. I've served on several boards and commissions And when you look forward going like that on the 45, like you said, Mr. Chairman, you, me, and some others, we'll probably be doing some other stuff, but I like the 45, 2045. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good deal. David, any comment?
I think I'll agree with Mr. Hemby. I like that Pitt County 2045. I think it kind of has a good ring to it.
Good deal. Thank you, sir. Who am I missing? Miss Buck? You have a comment on this one? Mr. McGlone, I'll come back to Miss Buck.
Yes, sir. I will go along with everybody else, but my favorite is to embrace Pitt County because I think we ought to have a slogan that underscores the fact that Pitt County is a valuable thing and that we love it. And I think embrace Pitt County is the best name.
Okay.
I think some of these, like Pitt County Forward and all that, implies that we won't open the floodgates for developers to come right on in and do whatever they want to do.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Whatever it is that they do.
I actually like the combination idea of like a envision Pitt County 2045.
And just a quick check, Mr. Sari, those domain names are available.
That's correct. The ones that are on the screen are available, at least as of this morning. They were still available.
What I was commenting, I just made a quick check that the Envision Pitt County 2045 and Embrace Pitt County 2045 are available as well.
Yep.
Okay.
Like embrace Pitt County 2045. I like that. I would just like to sort of have something that implies that we treasure Pitt County and not something that implies that we think we're doing something wrong.
So what do we, James, I think that we probably come up with a couple of three, but embrace 2045 Pitt County Comprehensive Plan. I mean, is that what I'm hearing?
I heard envision.
Envision. I'm sorry. Envision. Okay. Envision. What did you say? Envision 2045?
Envision's fine.
Envision Pitt County 2045.
Envision Pitt County 2045.
That's fine.
You got it, Chad?
I agree with that. RJ him be on the record.
Okay.
Steve,
Yes, sir.
I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Second motion.
We have a motion. We have a second. Motion by Mr. Hardy, second by was that Mr. Hemby?
Yes.
And that we have our plan name as, and let me watch me say it, 2045.
Envision 2045.
That's exactly right. Tab, you got it? How about read it back to me and then you can take a roll of vote.
You say envision 2045 or 2045 envision?
Envision Pitt County 2045.
There you go. Envision Pitt County 2045.
Right.
Envision Pitt County 2045.
Right.
Okay, Fred Austin,
I like that.
Don Brown,
I approve.
Naomi Buck. Naomi Buck.
Okay.
David Davenport,
Yes, approve.
Lyman Hardy,
Approve.
RJ Hemby,
Approve.
John Landron,
Absolutely.
Steve Little,
Approved.
and Charles McLaughlin.
Yes, approved.
Miss Naomi Buck.
Approved.
Approved.
Okay.
Approved.
Okay.
All right. Sounds like to me that we approve that name. James, Chad, can you gentlemen go to work now and get us a website?
Yes, sir, we sure can. I just started right then. As soon as y'all made the motion, I sent the note on. So we're ready to roll.
You see, I told you earlier, you had the right team in place, and they'll make decisions and move forward. So that's great. Thank you again tonight for your presentation, and we look forward to your hard work because you're going to create work for us. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Be
Thanks,
safe.
Chad.
James, back to you, sir, for some informational items.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, thank you, board, for performing your first real task in naming our plan as part of the steering committee. So thank you for that and taking care of it tonight. I've already alluded to, we're now in the throes of updating our stormwater regulations. We presented that to the Board of Commissioners at their last meeting. And just so you know, there are different rules for the Neuse Basin versus the Tarpam Basin. And about 40% of our land area in the county is in the Neuse Basin. The remainder, the 60%, is in the Tarpam. Very similar as far as administrative responsibilities, but the nutrients that are required to be controlled as part of the stormwater regulations are a little bit different. In the Tarpam, that's nitrogen and phosphorus. And then in the Neuse, it is only phosphorus. So those are the nutrients that we have to control. And that's why you get some of these best management practices, such as swales or wet detention ponds and those sorts of things. So you'll be hearing much more about that. The state reviews it first. They'll send it to the Environmental Management Commission. It comes back to the county for adoption. So hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have those new regulations in place. We also had an extension request for a special use permit for a very large solar farm that straddles the Pitt County town of Bethel ETJ line. And the Board of Commissioners did extend that special use permit for an additional 6 months. We're continually running our lease program for our buyout properties. Most of you are aware the county holds almost 200 acres of land that we've acquired after the buyout programs for Floyd and Matthew and a number of other storms. We continue to lease those properties to adjacent property owners or people that have interest in those properties. They maintain it. That's really helpful to the county. We don't have to expend funds in maintaining those lots. So it's worked out very well for us in that respect. So we continually, those are 10-year leases, so they continually come up for renewal from time to time. We did have our monthly reports in there, and also Tab had collected a number of items, the local news and we thought of importance for the board. Those were included. And that's all we have for tonight, Mr. Chair, unless you have any questions of staff.
Good deal. Thank you, James. Appreciate you and your staff's work always as we try to share that with you. If we ever fail to compliment you on it, we apologize. But in the meantime, we appreciate what you're doing. We just need you to do more of it. Okay. All right. So, and that's being said, to the board members, any comments in our closing minutes of this board meeting?
I got just one.
I have just one, Mr. Chairman, R.J. Henry.
Yes, sir, Mr. Henry.
Yeah, I want to thank you for a fine job of steering us through this process tonight. You had a couple of hurdles and you jumped over them and kept going. So keep going.
Good deal. Thank you, sir. Did I hear Mr. McLaughlin just a second ago?
No, that was me. I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say, good job, Miss Little.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that, John. You're mighty kind. I appreciate each one of you board members because along the way, we're going to do our job, but I hope we can have a little fun at trying to make it to work out so that we all accomplish the purpose that we're put here for and that it's all for the good of the county and the citizens in this county. So again, at this moment, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn unless somebody else has got something on their minds.
So moved, Don Brown.
Motion been made. I thought I just heard a second too. I appreciate each one of you. So at this point in time, we adjourn our meeting and look back to see you in person on April 20th. Okay. Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you,
evening.
everyone. Good
evening.
job.